welcome everybody to the September Lunch Bites training. This month's topic is how to increase my efficiency with myNeosho, and is presented by Dr. Marie Gardner. Marie, thank you for presenting. And if everybody could give Marie your attention, I'm sure she's going to have some great stuff to share with us.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. As Amanda said earlier, if you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself. Feel free to interrupt me at any point, or you can use the chat feature, and Amanda will help monitor that as we go through our session today. So first of all, I have a slide that just kind of shows the main topics of things that I want to visit with us about today. So we're going to talk a little bit about browsers and subscriptions, how to use your instructor-only page, several items related to different types of coursework assignments, and then also how you can get resources, assistance for myNeosho. So again, as we're going through this, if something sparks an idea with you and you want to share it to the group, that would be great, so we can have this be a dialogue. But I do have some slides presented. I also have myNeosho pulled up, so if we need to go into the portal, we can do that as well. So I just thought we would start by talking a little bit about browsers. So if you are not already a tabbed browser, I am a firm believer in tabbed browsing, because you can have multiple tabs open in one browser window that quickly allows you to move from one to another of those tabs. So ideas for using this with your classes. So you may be looking at the forums page in your class, but also maybe wanting to look at the coursework page in your class. So you can have one pulled up in one tab and another pulled up in another tab, quickly moving back and forth instead of having to wait for a reload every time you want to navigate between the two pages. Another excellent idea for using multiple tabs is if you're teaching 3 sections of the same class. So you might have your 91 section in one tab, your 92 in another, and maybe your 93 in another tab, allowing you to compare the information if you're making a revision to an assignment perhaps, or posting in the blog and you want to make sure that it's on all 3. So tabbed browsing. There is a joke here at the college. Some people think I used too many tabbed browsing, to have too many tabs open at one point. But I am here to assure you that you cannot have too many tabs open. They just keep getting smaller and smaller. So anyway, if you haven't used multiple tabs, give that a try. I do have one caution strictly related with myNeosho. If you are in the same class or in multiple classes, you want to make sure that wherever you are doing something, wherever you're going to save something, that is the last tab that you open. So it is the one that has most recently loaded in your browser, and that all of the others you can click on and see things, but you want to keep the one active or action tab so that you don't interfere between your tabs. So that's the one caution with multiple tabs. Also, speaking about multiple tabs, now this is strictly related to a browser and not necessarily for myNeosho, but when you open your browser, you can establish a set of tabs that will open every single time that you open that browser. So I always have myNeosho. Instead of going to neosho.edu and then clicking the link to go to myNeosho, I just have the URL for myNeosho set as a default, so that it always is going to be there, much faster than going to the website and then clicking on it. So if you use Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, then you're looking for the hamburger icon, which is in the top right-hand corner of your browser, and you want to go to options, and then under home you will find the tabs where you will find the place where you can establish the tabs. If you use Chrome, then you want the 3 dots, which is also in the top right hand corner, but you want to go to settings and then establish on startup. You want to open a set of tabs. In both of those browsers, I think the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and open all of the tabs that you want to be default tabs, because there's an option in both of those browsers to use the tabs that are already open in your window at that point in time as your defaults. So that's how I usually establish those. One good piece of news here about this is when you upgrade your browser, you typically do not have to reestablish your default tabs. So once on each computer should be sufficient for that. So again, you will have the tabs that you use all the time, but as on your work computers, I would suggest neosho.edu, the portal myNeosho, maybe the Outlook web app, because you are reading your email there, and then of course whatever else you're using. Also in the realm of browsers, if you like having mixed identities, you might try using 2 browsers. So even if you have 4 tabs set, in myNeosho, you're logged in and you have 4 different tabs, you go to one of those tabs and log out and log in as someone else, it only works there. All of the other 3 will now be logged out and you will have lost those permissions. So a common example of this, when you're an instructor, you want to check how your course shows for students. We do have Peter Panther, our favorite faux student here at the college, and you have the ability to put Peter in your class as a non-roster student. So you can log in as yourself. I use Mozilla Firefox as my primary browser. So I log in as myself in Firefox, and then I would open another browser where I can be Peter. So this allows me to make a change on the admin side in Firefox and go over quickly to Chrome and refresh the page and check to see that what I wanted to do has been set appropriately. In one browser, you can only have one login, which is great because most of the time we only want to log in as ourselves. But there are certain times of the year where you might need to log in as a student, or someone's in your office and they want to log in. Instead of logging out as yourself, just open a different browser. So that, I believe, is the end of what I had prepared. Oh, no, I lied. I have one more. Multiple monitors. So if you are lucky enough to have 2 monitors, or you have a tablet or a phone, don't be afraid to use all of those at your resources. So it's not uncommon for me to have Chrome on one monitor and Firefox on another monitor. And sometimes I have my iPad open and I have Safari up so that I can be seeing different things. Multiple monitors work great when you have different tabs of the same browser, but also if you're using different browsers like I just discussed. But you do need to know what's what and where you are in all of those. What page is open on this tab versus that tab, or who you are in this browser, who you're logged in and etc. So that's what I have for browsers. So I'm going to take just a second and pause before we move on to see if anyone has questions or has maybe thought of some way that you use tabs or different browsers or your different monitors to help you. The next item is subscriptions. So there's a couple different areas that I would like to talk about with subscriptions. First of all, your blog. How many of you as instructors will post something in your blog on your homepage and then immediately go to the roster and email your students? I used to do that, but now I don't do that. I tell my students, you can subscribe to my news portlet. That's what I call it in my class. So I only post to the blog. I don't duplicate that in an email to the students, because the students have the ability to say, send me an email when my instructor posts in the blog. So I do send an email to my students, and I encourage them to subscribe, and I walk them through the steps on how to do that. But there is one thing that you as the instructor have to check so that the students have that subscription option. So when you go to your blog portlet, again, mine is called the news portlet, and click on setup, the very first option is called RSS subscription. So you have to check mark that box, which then gives the students and yourself the ability to subscribe. This second image that you're seeing shows up at the bottom of the portlet. And I should have mentioned earlier, since I was talking about multiple monitors and browsing, you're certainly welcome to have Zoom on one screen and have your myNeosho on another screen so that you can be following along and looking at some of this as we go. That is the intent of this session so that you can get the most out of it. I also then will post, after I have given them a little bit of time to subscribe, and I usually give them 2 notifications that they should be doing that. Then a couple weeks into the class, I put in a news post with some news for the week, but I also say, if you receive this as an email, forward me the email, and then I give them a couple bonus points just as a way to encourage them to actually do the subscription, and I can tell who's reading the emails that I'm sending that way. Also, I want to talk about subscribing to the forums. So in this case, you can subscribe to receive an email notification, and that you can subscribe at the appropriate level as well. So some people may want to know anytime there's a post or a reply in anywhere in the forums. So you can subscribe at the portlet level. You can also subscribe at the category level or at the topic level. So what you're looking at is a screenshot of a class that I teach, and I have a category called General Course Information with a topic called Course Cafe. I have a different category called Discussion Topics, and we're just seeing the first 2 topics, but one is Course Introductions and one is Technology, Innovation, and Education. So if I want to know anytime a student posts anywhere in this portlet, I would subscribe at the portlet level. But I don't want to get an email notification anytime a student is doing their assignment. So I don't choose to any longer subscribe at the portlet level. It took me a couple years to get to that point, but I don't, because I know when I'm grading assignments, I'm going to go in and I'm going to read everything that the student has posted for an assignment. I don't need a notification that they're doing their work. I can log in and see that at any point that I want. I do, however, want to get an email notification anytime a student posts something in the Course Cafe or in one of my help forums. So I choose to hand pick the topics that I subscribe to. That way, if a student is reaching out for help, either to me or to their classmates, I get an email notification right away. I don't have to log in and check my Course Cafe or my help topics every day or even multiple times of the day. So that's just my, what I have evolved to in my use of the subscriptions in the forums. Okay, if there aren't any other comments or questions related to subscriptions, we'll move on to the instructor page. I have a couple different ideas that might help you on the instructor page. The first of which is to utilize the course content import tool. So if your textbook publisher provides a test bank, you actually can import all of the questions in your test bank, or you can use their TestBuilder and create an exam or a quiz and then export that and upload just that particular set of questions. The course content import tool is fairly easy to use. You do have to have the file as a zip file. And typically we find if you can export in Blackboard format, you can typically import that appropriately into myNeosho. So I just want to mention that this tool is out there. It actually is designed to bring in an entire cartridge, but to my knowledge, we've only been using it with test banks at this institution thus far. And I can quickly do a demo of that for someone if you have a test bank that you would like to try importing. So you would just email and set up a time for us to do that. So that can be, rather than retyping all the questions and then coding if it's multiple choice, etc., that can be a huge time saver, especially when you adopt a new textbook. The other idea here is to utilize the to-do list. So I'm a big list person. I like to keep a list. The problem is I will write it on paper and then I'll want to work on it while I'm at home, or I'll be in the car writing in the car for an hour or two and have my tablet, but I don't have my list. So if I put the to-dos that I need to take care of in my course, then I always have access to it when I'm able to work on it. So what you're seeing here is just my steps immediately after I do a course copy. There are certain things that I have to take care of. In this case, it's all about, if I'm teaching multiple sections, I get the first class set up, and then when I copy into the second class, you have to check the dates. They should have copied over appropriately. I use an RSS reader, so I have to reestablish that because it doesn't copy over. The links for your syllabus portlets, the external content portlets, need to be redefined after a course copy. This class uses TestOut, which is a third-party vendor, so there's some information in an assignment that needs to be updated specific to the section. And of course, your news or your blog portlets, the portlet will copy over, but the content does not, so you have to quickly post those again. Notice then step 2, instead of deleting the items off, and I will tell you, this took a couple years to figure out, because every year I'd sit down and say, okay, what do I have to do after a course copy? But now, instead of deleting them off, I simply change the color. So you can see at a glance my progress report here. If it's in green text, then I've already completed that. So I still have 3 more items to take care of this semester. So if you delete, you can start your list over, but if you just use a color coding system that makes sense to you, it's very quick and easy to change the colors of the items once they're done. The next item, suggestion for this instructor only page, is to give yourself some help. Instead of recreating from scratch every time, if you've got some email templates that you send regularly to students, go ahead and paste them into your instructor only class, and that way when you want to send an email, you can just start with that. It's a quick copy and paste into the roster page or into an email, and then you can modify it as is appropriate for that particular instance. So you can see here's my, hey everybody, you should be subscribing to the news portlet email. And then also I've given this the heading, the students logged in, but they haven't done anything yet. So I'm using the usage stats to identify who's logged into the course, and then the coursework page to say, okay, they've logged in and maybe they've looked around a couple times, but they haven't done anything yet. So I will email them a nudge. Do you have any questions? Is there anything I can help you with? We've got a due date coming up. So instead of writing that from scratch each time, I just copy this and start with this. And typically I make a change, but I find it faster, more efficient for me if I have this base to start with. And then the next idea that I have is really quite similar to the last. I mentioned earlier, when you do a course copy, the actual posts in your blog do not copy over. And that's intentional because you often use that portlet to say things that only apply at this moment in time to this group of students. But there are some posts that I use every semester. So my welcome and getting started info, I have posted on my instructor only page so I can quickly copy it and paste it in. I also have, in the last week of the class, we have an exam and a final exam, and then there's an optional makeup opportunity because I don't take late work during the semester, but I let them know there'll be a chance at the end for you to make up something. So I have several options there, so I find it easier to keep this text in my class. I could go back to the last class that I taught and grab it out of there, but if I have it on my instructor only page, it is right there ready for me to use. Well, then I will keep going forward. There are several different ideas related to coursework. So first of all, on your coursework page, as the instructor, you have the option to allow your students to leave a comment on the coursework assignment. I find this to be very useful, particularly in the online class. When they're reading the assignments, that's when they have their question, or they may not understand a step, or they think they've done it, etc. If they leave the comment on that assignment, the email comes with the description of where, what assignment specific the student is asking about. I have gotten emails from students that don't tell me what their question really is about. Like, I need help with the assignment that's due on Sunday. Okay, well, there might be 4 assignments due on Sunday. Which one are you asking about? But if they've left that comment on the assignment, the email subject identifies for me which assignment they're asking about. So there's some information that comes over from the system that the student doesn't even have to think about putting in there. And then if you allow students to leave that comment, you would also then probably want to check to receive the email notification. So this is done on the coursework page under configuration. It is towards the bottom of that window. The first check mark is what allows the students to comment. And then the second box is what allows you to get that email notification. So again, this is an excellent time. If this is something that sounds like something you want to take advantage of, pull up myNeosho, go over to your coursework page, go to configuration, and go ahead and check mark those. I believe you have to do that now in every class. By default, the first box is checked, but the second one by default is not. So you would want to just check every class that you want to get notifications on. Okay, so if you are using Outlook, I also suggest, and you have opted to receive the email notification, I also suggest that you establish a rule in your Outlook app. Again, this is not related to myNeosho, but for those of us that teach multiple classes or are on committees or get lots of emails, it just helps to manage that inbox. So what I choose to do is I tell my students, if you're emailing me, you need to put CSIS 100, which is my course, in your subject. And you notice that I have it where it's all together, and then I have it where there's a space. I don't care if they put a section number, but if they have CSIS 100 in the subject, then my rule in Outlook will pick it up. First of all, it's going to display a notification to me in the new item alert window that says you've received an email with CSIS 100. That tells me that I've got an email there. Secondly, it's going to move the email item to my folder. So I have a folder, CSIS 100 Fall 2018. If you're wondering why it's preceded with the AA, that's because I want this folder at the top of my list of folders. So it's alphabetized in Outlook. By putting the AA at the front, I can ensure that this is the very first folder that I see. That's also a visual clue to me. If it's bold, then there's something that's unread in that folder. When I'm on my phone, on my iPhone, I have to actually go to the folder to see if there's a new item in there. I don't get a notification on my phone. I've chosen not to get the notification, otherwise my phone would constantly be notifying me, so it's not as efficient. But by placing that at the top of the list, it's very quick to get to that folder and let it refresh itself as well. So those are the two things that I choose to do in Outlook. That way, if a student is asking for something, I will actually see the email. I'm more likely to see the email come in. It does take a little bit of training to the students to get them to put the CSIS 100 in the subject line. But if they're commenting on an assignment like we just talked about, then the system puts the CSIS 100 in there. So it's going to be identified and flagged by this rule. Then we'll move on to the file upload. So if you have an assignment that you want students to submit to you electronically, the appropriate format for that is a file upload assignment within your coursework. So no more having your students submit an assignment to you via email. For one thing, they can say, well, I sent you the email, but the email might not have made it to your inbox. And so then did they send the email, or did they just tell you that they sent the email? If you use the file upload assignment, then there is a record of whether or not they uploaded a file and whether or not they submitted it to you. Also, when back in the day when we had students emailing us assignments, the onus was on me to keep that organized in my inbox. I would have to, when it was time to grade, go to my inbox, first find all of the appropriate assignments that I want to grade, and then start grading them. If I use the file upload format, they're all there for me. When it's time for me to grade, I log in, I go to that assignment, and there's all the students' work. So from an efficiency point, it is much more efficient to use the file upload format. It puts the responsibility back on the student, not on me as the instructor, to be organized in my inbox. But probably more important than any of that, if in the example of a paper or anything that's done via Word, if you intend to write comments in the assignment and send it back to the student, you can no longer send a Word document that has comments in it via email, because we are blocking that as an institution. You can, however, receive Word documents with comments and upload documents with comments through this file upload format. So if you don't buy into the efficiency, or your inbox isn't a mess like mine is, just know that likely that email is going to get flagged and not processed. So that's a good valid reason to switch over to file upload at this point. Questions or comments on file upload? Okay, continuing with coursework, we'll talk about forum assignments. So one thing I would encourage you to do if you're going to have a class that has forum assignments, you want to actually go to your forums page and make your topics before you create the assignments. That's because when you are creating an assignment or editing an assignment, you actually will match the coursework assignment to a topic. So the topic has to exist in the forums page. Also, when these first came out, we had some interactions between the due dates with some of the settings. So I have just found it works better to go to the forums page, make all the topics, and then go to the coursework page to create the assignments. I want to talk just briefly about using rubrics. So first of all, it is a very efficient way for you to provide detailed feedback to your students. If you have a project that's worth 100 points and the student gets 82 points, they might come back and ask, why did I miss 18 points? But if you're using a rubric, then it breaks down for them on each criterion how many points they earn, so they can see I met this criterion, or I didn't meet this criterion, or here's where I could have improved. So that, from an efficiency standpoint, if you like to type comments to your students and you find yourself saying the same thing over and over, maybe you can make a rubric and put that text in the rubric. So it will save you a little bit of time. It might take a little while to develop your rubric, but you can import a rubric to multiple assignments. So we're looking at a piece of a rubric that I use in my CSIS 100 course. I've established it, but every one of my forum assignments, I can quickly import this rubric, and I don't have to create it from scratch every time. Also, it's the easiest thing when it comes to grading. So this is what the student sees, and you as the instructor would see this for each student. You literally just click on the appropriate box in each row, and the system will add up all the points. You can see when we get down here to the mechanics for the post, it's only worth 2 points as compared to the 4 points above. The system did all of the math. So 1.5 points is half of 3. I didn't establish that. The system did that automatically when I said this criterion is going to have a maximum of 2. But the system also then would add up. If the student earned 4 points here and 3 points here and only 1 point here, it adds all of that for the student. The student sees the rubric and sees the cell that is selected on each of them. So completely customizable by you. Provide whatever feedback you want. You can have as many columns and as many rows as literally as fit on the screen. You probably don't want a massive rubric. I have 9 rows on this particular rubric. Then also in coursework, I want to talk just briefly about the online format where you would build an exam or a quiz or essays within the TestBuilder. So you can see the variety of questions, multiple guess, everyone's favorite. Also comes with the all of the above, none of the above options, true, false, matching, ordering, so chronological ordering, the short answer or the essay. So since we're talking about ways to be efficient, I wanted to highlight when you're grading, there are 3 options that I find helpful. First of all, if, and you should have your questions set up in different pages, either by sections or 5 questions per page. You should have some sort of pagination established. But when you're grading, you might want to see that student's entire assignment all at once. So there is a link on each student to review the whole exam on 1 page. Then you don't have to wait for the page loads as you're going through and grading. My second favorite is also a link that expands all of the students' responses at once. You, of course, can collapse or expand a question at a time, but there's an option to expand them all at the beginning. So when I go in, I click show me the whole assignment and then expand all of their responses. And then it's just reading. All the loading has been done for me. The third option here I find especially helpful on essays or anything that's an essay, any paragraph answer, because I like to compare what student A and what student C might have said so that I can try to be as fair in my grading as possible. So this option pulls all of the students' answers to that question and lets me see them all on 1 screen. I find that to be helpful. So then the last thing that I have to share with you today relates to how you can get assistance in between lunch bites or just when you're working on something and have a question. So first of all, I want to point you to the portal, to myNeosho. On the myTeaching tab, there's a technology resources page. We're going to talk about several things that appear on that page, but the first of which is the current release notes. So whatever version we have upgraded to for e-learning, which is the name of our LMS, will be loaded here, as well as JIX, which is the portal side of the LMS. So those are in the middle. Those tend to be very technical. So they'll say, this is a resolved issue, this is a known issue, here's some enhancements. And they do a very nice job of covering the enhancements. The faculty guide is everything you ever wanted to know about the LMS. And it's straight from Jenzabar. So again, it's very technical. It may have a little more information than you wanted, but it should have anything that you have a question on covered in that guide. And then at the bottom of that portal or portlet, you should see the PowerPoint that was shared at our most recent in-service. So in August, I did an upgrade for myNeosho. Here is the PowerPoint for that. So those are maintained on the Technology Resources page. Also on the Technology Resources page are buttons that take you directly to our YouTube channel, to the playlists. We have a playlist of tutorials for students and a separate playlist of tutorials for faculty. So these orange bars are actually buttons you can click. They are linked out to the YouTube channel. And here is a look at our YouTube playlist for faculty, first of all, notice that you can subscribe to this. So if we update a video or put a new video on our YouTube playlist, you can get an email for that. And then I wanted to highlight within the playlist for faculty, you'll notice that there's two different kinds of videos there. The ones that are orange branded Neosho are in-house, made by Amanda over the summer to update everything to myNeosho. And then the other ones that are gray have a character called Cameron. These are straight from Jenzabar that we have shared on our channel. So you just have one place to go and you can find information. You'll notice these are very short videos, a lot of things done in steps, not a lot of detail, but basic steps that hopefully you can walk through and get what you need. There are 24 videos currently on our playlist for faculty. And when you come up and you need something and it's not there, then you just let us know and we'll make a video for that. We'll help you first and then we'll make the video so you get the timely help. And then the last slide here is if you don't find it in the YouTube playlist and you haven't found it in the faculty guide, or you just want a very quick answer, certainly contact me or Sherry Woolman. Sherry's on the Zoom meeting today. Sherry, will you wave at us? She's the administrative and technical assistant for the online campus. Both of us are here to help you. You also can get to us by emailing online@neosho.edu. So that is what I have prepared for today. So I want to thank you for coming. We do have a few more minutes, so I will be glad to take questions, or if you've thought of something that you would like to share with the group, that would be excellent as well.